Hey guys, Brian Beeler coming to you from the Storage Review Lab. We've got a new box in today, and in fact I'm coming to you from the future, or maybe the past. I guess this video will come out in a week when these things are officially launched, but these are new SSDs from Samsung. They actually come in a box that's reminiscent of 80s baseball card collections. If you couldn't get the full set of tops that was about this long, you get like this with the maybe just the special cards or the Reds minor leaguer set or whatever. But anyway, what we've got is the Samsung 870 QVO, and that is the next generation in Samsung's line of SATA QLC SSDs for end user systems. So this was a popular drive with the 860 QVO when they launched that about 2 years ago, or the fall of 18. And back then it was neat because they were the first, all that work on the tape, and then I just ripped the box open. Back then they launched it as the first SATA QLC drive, at least from a mainstream SSD provider. And that was pretty cool because they were so cost effective. So in the fall of 18, the 1 terabyte drive came out at $150, which was fantastic. The neat thing with these drives is that the price is even more aggressive than when the 860 QVO came out in the fall of 18. This 1 terabyte version comes in at $129 starting retail. The 4 terabyte is $499. 2 terabytes like $250, and there's an 8 terabyte version of the drive that'll be coming a little bit later. Price is not yet announced for that one, but it will be priced similarly aggressively. Now, because these are SATA drives, the performance profile is going to be actually pretty similar to what the 860 QVO was. So SATA read-write 560, 530 with IOPS of 98K and 88K. So it's a similar profile to what we saw with the 860. Important other notes, we've got obviously the QLC NAND, Samsung's controller, support for Samsung Magician, which, by the way, if you own a Samsung SSD, it is maybe not by far and away, but definitely the best drive administration software out there. So it's worth picking up if you don't have it already. It's free. It tells you all sorts of good information about your drive, and a 3-year limited warranty. So we'll take these guys, get them up in our test rig, and regroup with Kevin in a couple days when that's done, and we'll get together and talk about the performance. All right, so we took the Samsung QVO 870s, the 1 and the 4 terabyte, tested them and compared them on this chart with Samsung's prior gen drives. So Kevin, these are only SATA drives, only QLC now on these charts. So what'd you find in the 870 versus the 860?
So what's interesting is these drives actually got a decent boost in read performance. Small block random we don't see as much, and actually the baseline latency is a little bit higher, but these drives are able to eke out a little more performance on the 4K random read workload at the top end. Now going to write workload, everything is basically the same. We don't see a huge difference.
Basically the same. Those lines are nearly one.
Yeah, I think within the range of error, you could probably say they're identical. Now, as we go to sequential read, this is where you start seeing a larger difference in these drives. Before, there was a very significant difference between the performance of these drives based on 1 terabyte versus 4 terabyte.
Right, that would be the purple and the green lines, but that gap is nil at this point.
Yeah, so not only did the new drive get faster, but there's not really a difference between the 1 terabyte and 4 terabyte model. So it's fairly good.
So switching over to Sequential Write, we see the one-line phenomenon again.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of improvement in this area. I'm guessing it's mostly a firmware change going between the drive generations. But these drives, they're not going to have a huge difference on write performance, but even there, it's a QLC product. You're probably not buying this for write speed.
No, and you're testing just a small subset of the drive in the QLC examples, right?
Yeah, so when we test a normal consumer product, we're doing a 5% partition size. For QLC, because these things get hammered in ways that are hard to describe and just turn into like crazy squiggles and charts, we
Once
back
you get
it down.
outside that buffer.
Yeah, we back it down to a 1% partition size, which fits pretty closely aligned with their SLC cache.
So while we didn't run all of the benchmarks on these because of the nature of QLC, you didn't do SQL Server, for instance, but you did run the VDI workloads just to see, from another productivity angle, how these things might do. What did you find here?
Yeah, again, the newer drive tends to track faster, and we start seeing a better separation of the older model had a bigger gap on capacity. Performance differences. And the boot workload is one where the 1 terabyte and 4 terabyte 870 aren't really aligned as much as they were in the previous charts, but you still see that it offered a significant performance boost over the previous generation. And then again, on the initial login, these drives are very closely banded together.
All right, so just as a recap, the 870 QVO available today, they're starting at $129.99 for the 1 terabyte, $249.99 for the 2 terabyte, and $500 for the 4 terabyte. 8 terabyte capacities will be out in August, and pricing will be released then. It's worth noting, though, that overall, in almost every way, the drives got faster, better in terms of their performance. They're also less expensive than where the 860 QVO launched a year ago, which is pretty remarkable for the drive to both get better and less expensive. We don't normally see that double combination.
Yeah, and I was thinking of areas this drive would fit well into. Imagine a nice high-performance gaming platform where you put a fairly high-performant M.2 in there that might still have a 2.5-inch bay left open. You can put some serious capacity in that and not have to really worry about I/O performance. It's not like a hard drive anymore. You're looking at... well, you have to manage your write workloads going into it, but I mean, it's going to be fantastic for read performance.
Well, yeah, after a game's installed, pulling off in a read would be no big deal, right?
Yeah, and for 2.5-inch drives, does anyone... what's the top out right now? That's...
On the hard drives?
Yeah, like everyone...
Two? Or
Yeah.
did they get up to... We got to 4.
Yeah,
eventually.
they get a little bit thicker, but I mean,
Yeah.
that space really hasn't seen as much difference. SSDs have definitely leapfrogged them in there.
No, so this is pretty cool. Samsung 870 QVO, we're big fans, and we did not start out in the early days of huge fans of QLC, and it's still not for everyone, but for a low-cost, high-capacity SATA drive, this thing will do just fine in a number of use cases. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be back soon with another video review.
Thanks.